Hugh Hefner and his Playboy brand have been synonymous with upscale, tasteful sexiness since the magazine's debut in the late 1950s. For 5 decades, Hef's permanent residence at 10236 Charing Cross Road in Los Angeles, the legendary Playboy Mansion, has also become synonymous with lavish parties and tons of scantily clad women. As with many things in the City of Angels, however, appearances are not always what they seem. Here are 10 shocking facts about the Playboy Mansion. Hefner famously lives with a revolving roster of up to 7 buxom young girlfriends at a time, which we'll dig into a little more in a moment. Because most guys tend to scrub their place from top to bottom when just one girlfriend is on the way over, you might think that the mansion would be kept spotless, and you would be very wrong. According to several of Hef's former girlfriends, the mansion is a far cry from the glamorous palace they had envisioned before moving in. Isabella James, who arrived at the mansion in 2002, says the place was decorated with furnishings that could politely be described as modest, with mismatched pieces in each room that could have come from a thrift store. The mattresses and sheets on each bed were worn and stained, and the carpets and walls were grungy. Even after Isabella persuaded Hef to replace the carpets, he installed white ones that were soiled and grubby again in no time flat. In addition to this, Hef and some of the Playmates owned several dogs that would regularly do their business in the house. In her book Bunny Tales, Isabella remembers, everything in the mansion felt old and stale, and Archie the house dog would regularly relieve himself on the hallway curtains, adding a powerful whiff of urine to the general scent of decay. Probably not exactly what you'd pictured. In 2011, there was an unusual outbreak of Legionnaire's disease in the Los Angeles area. The disease is a type of flu that can leave people bedridden for over a week, and the bacteria that causes it are typically found in warm, fresh water or hot tubs. This particular outbreak was traced back to a party at the Playboy Mansion and the famous grotto, which apparently is a breeding ground for the bacteria. The man-made whirlpool has long been the butt of jokes. Since this being the Playboy Mansion, all sorts of filthy activity is assumed to take place there. But the 2011 party sickened an incredible 200 people, according to the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health, which said that the bacteria is spread most easily by inhaling steam from infected water. So if you ever find yourself at the mansion, you may want to forego a dip in the grotto, and instead just take pictures from far, far away. While nearly all of the mansion and its grounds are open to guests and have been extremely photographed, there is one room that has never been seen by the general public. It's called the Elvis Room, and yes, the legendary king of rock and roll is said to have stayed there. While the fact that very few have even seen the room give it an air of mystery, it's probably not much different from the mansion's other 11 bedrooms, except of course that it was once host to rock and roll royalty. It also doesn't hurt that according to the legend, Elvis didn't sleep there alone. While it's to be expected that the king would be popular with the bunnies, rumor has it that no fewer than 8 Playmates entertained him during his overnight stay. It appears that this, plus being one of the greatest rockers of all time, is what it takes to get a room named after you in the Playboy Mansion. Speaking of rock royalty, only the Beatles could have claimed to be bigger than Elvis, not to mention another influential figure or two. After their breakup in the early 70s, John Lennon spent an 18-month lost weekend in LA, during which he and singer-songwriter Harry Nilsson consumed more alcohol and drugs than a reasonable person would think possible. It was a time during which Lennon was famously volatile, being separated from Yoko Ono, and probably the wrong time for him to be invited to Sunday brunch at the lavish Playboy Mansion. Hef recalled in a 2007 interview that John showed up already drunk and in an extremely bad mood due to the circumstances of his personal life. He proceeded to drink even more and started behaving badly while Hef was elsewhere in the mansion. When he put out his cigarette on a valuable original Matisse painting, one of Hef's friends took exception and was ready to beat the former Beatle to a pulp. Fortunately, Hef intervened and simply had John kicked out, saying that John was one of his heroes and was obviously going through a terrible time in his life. Of course, it could be argued that being defaced by a Beatle may have made the painting even more valuable, and it still hangs in the mansion to this day. Hef doesn't just love dogs. Apparently, he has a great fondness for animals of all types, and the mansion's grounds are home to all types of animals that one wouldn't ordinarily see outside of a zoo. In fact, the mansion actually holds a zoo license, or resident exhibiting permit, from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. Hef's pad is one of about 24 private residences in Los Angeles County to qualify for a license of this kind, but we're guessing that the others have a distinct lack of Playboy models in bikinis. The mansion's aviary features a stunning assortment of tropical birds, birds, including parrots, cockatoos, African cranes, pelicans, toucans, and peacocks. The grounds are also home to an assortment of monkeys. There are over 100 squirrel monkeys alone, and the mansion employs a 6-person animals department to take care of all of the animals and exotic birds. In addition to this, the Playboy Mansion is the only private residence in all of Los Angeles to hold a year-round fireworks and pyrotechnics permit. Hef has been married 3 times, for the first time all the way back in 1949. His 2 most recent marriages have been to Kimberly Conrad and Crystal Harris, 2 of the many girlfriends that have come and gone at the mansion over the years. He divorced Conrad in 2010 after 20 years of marriage and 2 children, and married Harris, who is 60 years his junior, in 2012. As revealed in former girlfriend Holly Madison's tell-all book Down the Rabbit Hole, Hef's marriage to Conrad never held him back from constantly having a harem of blonde, buxom girlfriends. He would have up to 7 at a time, with one special girl staying with him in his room. After twice-weekly club nights fueled by plenty of drugs, Hef would bring all 7 of his current girls to his room, where awkward group sex would take place. This would typically begin with Hef smoking pot and watching porn, before taking short turns with each girl and finishing by himself. Madison says no one was actually in the mood besides Hef, I assumed, or turned on in the slightest. British twins Carla and Melissa Howe moved out of the mansion in 2015 and quickly spilled a whole bunch of dirt to the British press. According to them, living at the mansion is more like living with a doddering old granddad than the fast-paced life of glamour and excitement that it's made out to be. The twins say that Hef's movie nights, which happen 3 times a week, consist mostly of his favorite Hollywood selections from the 1950s, which is sure to be a major turn-on for his harem of 20-something girls. All of his girlfriends are subject to a strict 9 p.m. curfew and are never allowed to have any visitors at the mansion, especially not male ones. Also, while Hef's girlfriends used to get a weekly allowance, that has also been axed, and now they simply get free room and board. If they break any of Hef's rules even once, particularly curfew, they are kicked out and never allowed to come back. Fortunately, the twins say that at least Hef's marriage to Crystal has made an honest man out of him, and he no longer sleeps with any of the girls besides his wife. This was a relief to Carla, who says, "To be honest, he's so old now I couldn't imagine him trying to make a move. He has to walk with people around him because he's frail." Technically, Hef never actually owned the Playboy Mansion. It was purchased by Playboy Enterprises in the 1960s, which had been leasing it to him for all these years for the astonishingly low amount of $100 per year. However, Playboy's dwindling fortunes caused them to sell off the mansion in 2016, with the condition that Hef will be allowed to live there for the rest of his life. Unfortunately for him, his rent has gone up just a little. Next-door neighbor Darren Metropolis, the 32-year-old heir to a billion-dollar fortune, bought the mansion for a cool $100 million. Once Hef's tenancy ends, Metropolis intends to connect the property with his own, combining them into a single 7.3-acre estate. In the meantime, however, Hef will pay a whopping $1 million per year to continue living in his beloved mansion. Iconic entertainer Bill Cosby has come under serious fire in recent years, as over 20 women have come forward alleging that Cosby drugged and sexually assaulted them over the course of his entire career. Of the many lawsuits currently pending against him, one was brought by Judy Huth, who claims that Cosby sexually assaulted her at the Playboy Mansion in the 1960s, when Cosby was 37 and she was only 15. According to her complaint, Huth and a 16-year-old friend met Cosby at an outdoor film set, where he invited them to a private club. At the club, they played pool, with Cosby's condition being that they had to drink a beer for every game he won. After they had both had several, Cosby said that he was taking them to a party, which turned out to be at the Playboy Mansion. He allegedly told both girls that they should claim to be 19 should anyone ask. Later that night, Huth came out of a guest room bathroom to find Cosby sitting on the bed, where he proceeded to force her into performing several sexual acts on him. While Cosby has not been convicted, this would certainly rank high on the list of scandalous incidents to have taken place in a mansion known for sleazy excuses if it turns out to be true. If Kendra Wilkinson is to be believed, there is one giant overarching reality of Hugh Hefner in the Playboy Mansion. It's all a giant facade. Far from being rich, sophisticated, and great with the ladies, Hef is cheap, shallow, and his girlfriends generally can't stand him. Kendra moved into the mansion when she was only 18, and along with Holly Madison and Bridget Marquardt was a cast member on The Girls Next Door, a reality show set at the mansion that aired from 2005 to 2010. Kendra went on to further reality fame and basically confirmed all of Holly's cringe-inducing details about Hef's club and sex nights to her castmates on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. She even went into further details, saying, "I was usually very drunk during those evenings. I tended not to care about much until the next day. I had to be very drunk or smoke a lot of weed to survive those nights. It was like a job. Clock in, clock out. It's not like I enjoyed having sex with him." Kendra says she would even check into hotels down the street from the mansion during the day to sleep with other men. Not exactly a great look for a man who supposedly embodies the word playboy.